Justice League Throne of Atlantis is the brand new DC animated feature and the second in their New 52-inspired shared universe initiative following the formation of the Justice League in Justice League War. Now, I never officially reviewed War, but it was a movie that I felt had its fair share of problems, mainly that all the heroes acted needlessly aggressive, and it was clear that Batman and Green Lantern were shown favoritism over the rest of the team. But hey, I said, the writers are just working with the material they were given, and those were all problems in the original text, so maybe it was more a problem with that story than it was the actual adaptation. With that being said, you can bet I was super excited when I found out that Throne of Atlantis would be the next storyline to get adapted. For those who don't know, this story holds a very special place in my heart, as it was one of the very first big DC events I ever covered professionally online, and to this day I still feel it represents some of the very best of both Aquaman and the New 52 as a whole. As the movie opens, an American sub has gone dark over the Marianas Trench, and it's up to the newly formed Justice League to investigate. What's truly shocking is just how little has actually changed about the team since the events of War. Batman still doesn't play nice with others, Cyborg is still struggling with his new body, Green Lantern is still doing his annoying Ryan Reynolds movie take on the character, which was already getting phased out by the time this story was originally written, so I don't know why they're still running with it here. His crowning moment of stupidity comes when he doubts the existence of Atlantis to the whole League, and it's only a few scenes later does someone care to mention how dumb all that sounds coming from an actual space cop who is on a first-name basis with an alien, an Amazon, and a robot. Now, building a shared universe in animation shows perhaps its biggest problem right away, that being that a huge chunk of the voice cast from Justice League War were unable to reprise their roles here in this movie. None of the new people are exactly bad, but the change leads to plenty of confusion and dissonance. Here's hoping they can actually get this new cast to stick around. Animation is of course very difficult and very time-consuming, which means by the time they're ready to make another one of these movies, there's a good chance the actors could have other obligations. And then, of course, there's the strange case of Arthur Curry himself, voiced by Matt Lanter, who, by all right, Throne of Atlantis should be about Aquaman in the same way Flashpoint was about the Flash, and Assault on Arkham was about the Suicide Squad. But honestly, Arthur gets very much lost in the shuffle of what was supposed to be his own movie. It sure doesn't help that his characterization is radically different from what it was in the comics. Here's an angry young man falling into a pit of despair after his father's death. No, we don't know how he died, and we only get one short flashback of his time alive. They don't even show us the moment where an Aquaman finds out that he has powers. Other important Aquaman supporting characters like Dr. Shin appear for a second, then are quickly killed off. Also, hey, Shin's character model is totally recycled from the Secrets episode of Young Justice, am I right? I mean, it sure looks like it. Recycling for background characters was rampant in War, and sadly, Throne of Atlantis keeps up the kind of depressing trend. Although, then again, maybe the stuff with Wonder Girl was actually a cameo, but it's kinda hard to tell. Another unexpected and weird departure from the source material is actually Aquaman's mother. She's very much alive here and sends Mira to retrieve him. Yes, in a movie that's already jam-packed, we also have to deal with an Arthur-Mira budding romance storyline. Challenging the heroes is Arthur's brother, Orm, who in the comics was a complex and layered character who was being more or less manipulated into war with the surface, far from a cut-and-dry villain is what I'm trying to say, but in this movie, well, he's basically underwater Loki. Weirder still is his massive hate for the surface doesn't gel at all with the fact that he has a clear surface dweller Black Manta serve as his prime henchman. The action scenes are par from the course in these DC movies, by which I mean they are very tight. Director Ethan Spalding is an animation veteran with plenty of Avatar: The Last Airbender episodes under his belt, and in scenes when Mira is killing grunts with waterbending, I could not help but see the connection. The animation keeps with what we saw in War, however, the ugly face of CGI rears its uncomfortable head in a scene wherein Batman chases some scarecrow thugs. Again, I know animation is hard work and it takes a lot of time, but the technology is just not there yet to fuse traditional animation and CGI without it having look really weird. As anyone who read Throne of Atlantis could tell you, there was actually a twist ending involving who the real mastermind of the war between the surface and Atlantis was, and I have to say they really fumbled the twist here. In the end, none of it matters too, because everyone just ends up fighting Orm anyway, so what was the point of even keeping the twist? Speaking of which, I also had to raise an eyebrow that the very same team who took down Darkseid not a movie ago struggles to fight just just Orm, and in a movie filled with plenty of blood and death, they really do pull their punches on the big city flooding scene that was so huge and such a focal point of the comic. They get rid of it for really no reason. It looks like Orm is about to do it, then he stops and parts the sea like Moses. Make no mistake, I worship at the altar of DC animation. I have an encyclopedic knowledge of all these things dating all the way back to Batman the Animated Series, and while some of these direct-to-DVD movies have been better than others, and some have been more memorable than others, all of them have at least stayed true to the heart of the stories they were telling. But as much as it pains me to say, Throne of Atlantis might actually be the first movie I felt was a true dud. It doesn't really work as an adaptation, it lacks the luster that it should, being that it's a sequel on its own, and worse still, it mishandles what was supposed to be Aquaman's big moment in the sun, and turns into just another generic Justice League tale that misses all the great characterization that came from the Jeff Johns era. I give this one a 5 out of 10. Justice League Throne of Atlantis is available now on iTunes and other digital mediums. The full DVD will be released January 27th.